This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to the Anjana Sutta Academy, daily Srimad. This is the Bhagavatam reading. And today is 2022, May 3rd. And present are Hubbard Robinson, Srinivasacharya Das, Gracias, Abhinandana, Nanda Brajadas, Jaya Haridas, Mitravinda Didi, Gadai Garanga D, Sugopi, Subhasakadas Krishna Pram, Carmen Veronica Karmanakwi, Sundaradika Devi Dasi. Okay. Hare Krishna. Who will be the chief guest? Don't be shy. Don't be timid. Oh, Lokabandhu Ramdas. Hare Krishna. Well,
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my
okay. Please, from New Haven.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Naya Shrama. Naya Shrama. Okay, I will now remove our terrible picture. Okay, and we'll go to the share screen. Okay, now close this, hide this, close this, move this, yes, reduce that, open this. We're going to give a donation to, what to call it today?
Akshaya Tritiya.
Yeah, we're going to give a big donation to database.io and also Wikipedia. I couldn't donate when out of the country.
Wikipedia is no longer a good source of information. It's the Wikipedia founder said it has been, they messed up. They totally damaged it. The founder is not happy.
Oh yeah, they removed me. They removed me. Maybe as I was good, I was removed.
Yeah, it's happening with a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, it's never been a very good source in some ways. But it's what is it?
Even Elon Musk, the guy who purchased the Twitter, even he has complaints about Wikipedia. So there's not.
Oh yeah.
The trust is degraded in Wikipedia. I won't donate, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah. But the what is it? The director of the Britannica, I think they asked him. He said, "I use it." He said, Wikipedia is like a chisel, and Britannica is like a needle.
It used to be.
Yeah. But they give references and stuff. It depends. And some of the articles are written by very technical people. And also, it's good to see them because you can see what people are being fed and stuff. Okay, 2:12. Famous verse. This is it? Yeah. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava
Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Jaya
Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopal Janabalava Girivaradari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Jamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Shivar Madhavasa Saki ki jai, Chaitanya Chandaraya Mandir ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Sanktam ki jai. Narayanam Namaskritam
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Shaiva Narottamam
Naranchaiva Narottamam
Devam Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jaya Mudirayat
Tato Jaya Mudirayet.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayan and Narayan Rishi ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam 2212, 2212. Yeah. Adina lila hasite kshanola sad.
Adina Lila Hasite Kshanollasad.
Bhrubhanga sang suchita bhuryanugraham.
Bhrubhanga Sansuchita Bhuryanugraham.
Iksheta chintamayam ishvaram.
Iksheta Chintamayamenamishwaram.
Yavan manodaranaya vatishtate.
Yavan Manodharanayavatishtate.
Boliye.
Adina Lila Hasite Kshanollasad.
Adina lila hasate hasanek dalola sahad.
Bhrubhanga Sansuchita Bhuryanugraham.
Rubanga sang suchita buryanugraham.
Iksheta Chintamayamenamishwaram.
Iksheta chinta mayamenamishvaram.
Yavan Manodharanayavatishtate.
Yavan manodaranaya vasistate. Now we'll ask Ray Haridas to chant.
Adina lila hasite kanolashad.
Adina lila hasite kshanola sad.
Brihu branga sam suchita bri angranham.
Rubhanga sang suchita bhuryanugraham.
Exeta chintamayam enam isvaram.
Iksheta chinta mayaminam ishvaram.
Yavan mano dharana yavatistate.
Yavan manodaranaya vavasistate. And now can somebody from ISKCON Dallas chant? Well, nobody's doing it. Well, I guess anybody else can chant who was born in January, February, March, April, May, or June.
अदीनलीला हसिते क्षणोल्लसद
Adina lila hashitekshanolasad.
भ्रूभङ्गसंसुचितं भूर्यनुग्रहम्
Bhanga sang suchita bhuryanugraham.
इक्षेत चिन्तामयमेनमीश्वरम्
Ekshaita chintamayam ishvaram.
यावन्मनोधारण यावत्तिष्ठते
Yavan mano dharayana dharai boy dharan ayavastistate. Some other person?
आदिनलीला चिते क्षणो न शब्द
Adena lela hasite kshano lasad.
भ्रूभंग संसूचित पूर्वानुग्रहम्
Guru bhanga sang suchita bhori anugraham.
इचेत चिंता मय मोनमी ईश्वरम्
Ikshaita chintamayam enam ishvaram.
यावन्मनोधारणा यावतिष्ठते
Yavan mano dharanaya vatistate. Adina,
Adina,
very magnanimous.
very magnanimous.
Leela,
Leela,
pastimes.
pastimes.
Hasita,
Hasita,
hasita, smiling.
smiling.
Ikshana,
Ikshana,
by glancing over.
by glancing over.
Ulasat,
Ullasat,
glowing.
glowing.
Does this also occur in the Dhammadarastaka in the beginning?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yes.
Lasat kundalam. Lasat kundalam. So it has ullasat.
Yeah. His earrings are glowing.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Bhrubhanga,
Bhrubhanga.
signals of the eyebrows.
Signals of the eyebrow.
Sangshuchita,
Sansuchita.
indicated.
Indicated.
Bhuri,
Bhuri.
extensivi.
Extensivi.
Anugraham,
Anugraham.
benediction.
Benediction.
Iksheta,
Iksheta.
one must concentrate on.
One must concentrate on.
Chintamayam,
Chintamayam.
transcendental.
Transcendental.
Enam,
Enam.
this particular.
This particular.
Ishvaram,
Ishwaram.
Supreme Lord.
The Supreme Lord.
Yavat,
Yavat.
as long as.
As
Manaha,
Manaha.
the mind.
The mind.
Dharanaya,
Dharanaya.
by meditation.
By meditation.
Avatistate,
Avatishtate.
can be fixed.
Can be fixed.
Adina lila hashtite ksanolasad, Bhrubhanga sam suchiti buri anugraham, iksheta chintamayam enam ishvaram, yavan mano dharanaya avatistate. The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing glances of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. Okay? These are all indications of his extensive benedictions, his magnanimous pastimes, his glowing glances. One must therefore concentrate on this transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation. So right after this, from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, we have our Board of Examiners meeting, and we're going on editing questions for the Godfather diploma. That anybody who's been like a preacher, teacher, or whatever for some time and haven't got their diplomas, well, we'll give them a summative examination with that. There's essay questions of about 300 words. And so we're trying to help with that project with Atul and other people. And now they're on the first two chapters. So I was looking at the same thing here. First canto, of course, we describe as a preface. What is the purpose of it? Who's speaking? Who's the student? Who's the teacher? Who's the student? Who's the audience? Under what circumstances is the class being given? What is the purpose of the work, of the book, like that? So all these things are what occurs in a preface. It's all there. Sukadeva Goswami Maharaj Pariksit, he's being cursed by a Brahmin boy. The age of Kali is coming, and all the sages are also there listening attentively. And we can see that Sukadeva Goswami was just a member of the audience, right? And he took it and made a gigantic result from it. So how many other members of the audience are also taking gigantic results? Yes. So then at the end of it, Sukadeva Goswami appears and he becomes a teacher. And then he starts to preach in the second canto. So to our perspective, I think comments by Prabhupada also, he does everything in 3 chapters. First chapter we're looking at is pantheism, that you should meditate on and describe the Lord's characteristics. That's what he says. Hearing and chanting about the Lord. But the form of the Lord he described is actually the Virat Rup, And so meditating upon, among men I am the monarch, among fish I am the shark, and talking about these things and meditating on them. And he gives them some very nice preliminary activities that we can do, like sitting down in proper posture and these kind of things, which are all very useful. Getting up from Mangalarti, taking a nice bath, getting ready. So when you're singing the Gurvastika, then it becomes a very nice program. So there are good preliminary things we can do also. But then he continues and he says, Lord Brahma was even able to revive his spiritual consciousness to the extent that he was able to do a very, very nice Sankirtan project, which is, open a temple, open a universe, entire universe, where people could experience Krishna consciousness. Okay. Yeah. And another way to realize this is also by realizing the supersoul. And he describes the process of sannyas, whereby one should become more renounced and realize the Lord within the heart. And when you do that, actually you experience. Now, of course, it's not going to be just like, maybe even not even what we consider like thoughts and stuff, maybe even a little bit more elevated, the experience of more even like directly on the level of Buddhi to some degree. But he's describing, you'll see the form of the Lord. And here he's talking about his magnanimous pastimes and activities. So Srinivasacharya, can you count how many times the word sex desire appears in this purport?
Okay, Guru.
And now also a couple times it's paraphrased other phrases. In the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is said that the impersonalist undergoes a series of difficult programs on account of his impersonal meditation. But the devotee, due to the Lord's personal service, progresses very easily. Impersonal meditation is therefore a source of suffering for the impersonalist. Here, the devotee has an advantage over the impersonalist philosopher. Ha ha ha. The impersonalist is doubtful about the personal future of the Lord, and therefore he always tries to meditate on something which is not objective. Oh yeah? For this reason, there is an authentic statement in the Bhagavad Gita regarding the positive concentration of the mind on the factual form of the Lord. The process of meditation herein is bhakti yoga, or the process of devotional service after one is liberated from the material conditions. Jnana yoga, or the process of liberation from the material conditions, is the process after one is liberated from the conditions of material existence, i.e., when one is nivritta, as previously stated herein, or when one is freed from all material necessities, one becomes qualified to discharge the process of bhakti yoga. Therefore, bhakti yoga includes jnana yoga. In other words, the process of pure devotional service simultaneously serves the process of jnana yoga, because liberation from material conditions is automatically achieved by the gradual development of pure devotional service. These effects of bhakti yoga are called anartha nivritti. Things which are artificially acquired gradually disappear along with the process of bhakti yoga. Meditation on the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, the first processional step, must show its effects by anartha nivritti. Okay, so if we're studying these first 2 cantos, we should see how we're becoming free from these attachments. The grossest type of anartha, which binds the conditioned soul and material existence, is sex desire. Okay, that's one. Okay. And this sex desire, there's two, gradually develops in the union of male and female. When the male and female are united, the sex desire is further aggravated by the accumulation of buildings, children, friends, relatives, and wealth. When all these are acquired, the conditioned soul becomes overwhelmed by such entanglements, and this false sense of egoism, or the sense of mine, myself, and mine, becomes prominent. And the sex desire expands. Sex desire expands. Various political, social, altruistic, philanthropic, and many other unwanted engagements, as in Wikipedia, resembling the foam of the sea waves, which becomes very prominent at one time. At the next moment, it vanishes as quickly as a cloud in the sky. The conditioned soul is encircled by such products as products of sex desire. And therefore, Bhakti Yoga leads to the gradual evaporation of the sex desire, which is summarized in the three headings of profit, adoration, and distinction. So I want to have some profit for my work. The British phrase that says, most men are ready to invest, but most of them expect a return on their investment. Okay, yeah. And adoration and distinction. Oh, you're very special. Oh, you're great. Okay. So of course maybe it's not so nice to be doing. I guess even people like it's a fact. People are so much after distinction, even if they become distinguished as bad people and everything else. They'll do bad things. They just become distinguished. All conditioned souls are mad after these different forms of sex desire, and wants to see for himself how much he has been freed of such material hankerings based primarily on the sex desire. Okay. As a person feels hunger satisfied after eating each morsel of food, he must similarly be able to see the degree to which he had been freed from sex desire. The sex desire is diminished along with its various forms by the process of bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga automatically, by the grace of the Lord, effectually results in knowledge and renunciation. Even if the devotee is not materially very well educated, knowledge means knowing things as they are. And if by deliberation it is found out that there are things which are unnecessary, naturally the person who has acquired knowledge leaves aside such things. Knowing things as they are. Okay. When the conditioned soul finds by culture of knowledge that material necessities are unwanted things, okay, he becomes detached from such unwanted things. The stage of knowledge is called vairagya, or detachment from unwanted things. We have previously discussed that the transcendentalist is required to be self-sufficient and should not beg from the rich, blind persons to fulfill the bare necessities of life. Pragati Goswami has suggested some alternatives for the bare necessities of life, namely the problem of eating, sleeping, and shelter, but he has not suggested any alternative for sex satisfaction. Okay, I'll keep track of this one. This is almost like sex desire. One who has the sex desire still with him should not at all try to accept the renounced order of life. For one who has not attained this stage, there is no question of renounced order of life. So the gradual process of devotional service under the guidance of a spiritual master and following the principles of Bhagavatam, one must be able to at least control the gross sex desire before one accepts the renounced order of life factually. So here's the point: is you don't have to be free from all the subtle attachments in this sense, because when you're taking sannyas, okay, you're putting yourself in a very strong position where now you can see them and reduce them. So purification means getting free gradually from sex desire, and this and this is attained by meditation on the person of the Lord, as described herein, beginning from the feet. One should not try to go upwards artificially without seeing for himself how much he has been released from sex desire. The smiling face of the Lord is the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are many upstarts who at once tried to begin with the 10th canto, and especially with the 5 chapters Panchadhyay, 19 to 24, which delineate the Ras Leela of the Lord. This is certainly improper. By such improper study or hearing of the Bhagavatam, the material opportunists have played havoc by indulging in sex life, okay, in the name of Bhagavatam. The vilification of Bhagavatam, this vilification of Bhagavatam is rendered by the acts of the so-called devotees. One should be free from all kinds of sex desire before he tries to make a show of recital of Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, okay. So you said being a preacher, you should be even free of so many subtle things too. Because as a preacher, of course, then you get a big seat, prestige, fame, people laugh at your jokes and everything else. So even to become free, and for example, so many times I'm sitting in a class, giving a class, and there are different people of different ages, and usually they'll point the ladies will be on one side, men will be on the other, girls on one side, boys on another, and so then they kind of point the Vyasa right on the middle. But I come along and turn it a little bit towards the men. So I kind of like reduce it because, my mind and body and intelligence and conditioning has this natural desire that ladies should laugh at my jokes and everything else. Then I've noticed that, as far as I can tell, it's completely unconscious. But many times when I'm looking towards the ladies' side of the audience and just some eye contact a little bit with one person, many times they'll start nodding their head up and down. When I'm talking and like that and so on, giving a response to, oh yes, I hear you, I'm being influenced by you, So it's a natural response in the female body. It's a natural response in the male body. We're going to have it, some of us more than others, until the time we die, So then we should be able to be aware of these things, our mentality, and I can control it by readjusting the direction of the Vyasa-san, or else by consciously spending more time talking to men and getting their reactions, than women. So then we can start becoming a preacher of the Bhagavatam if we get free from this desire for fame, prestige, and distinction for being Bhagavatam preachers. Otherwise, it's very dangerous. Krishna Vishnu Chakravarti clearly defines the import of purification as cessation from sex indulgence. That's the third time. He says, Yata yata disha shudyati dishayalam patyam tyajati tata tata darayet eti chitta shudi taratam ye naiva dhyana taratam yam uktam. As one gets free from the intoxication of sex indulgence, by purification of intelligence, one should step forward for the next meditation. Or in other words, the progressive meditation on different limbs of the transcendental body of the Lord should be enhanced in proportion to the progress of purification of the heart. The conclusion is that those who are still entrapped by sex indulgence, that's the fourth time, should never progress to meditate above the feet of the Lord. Therefore, recital of Srimad Bhagavatam for them should be restricted to the first and second cantos of the great literature. One must complete the purificatory process by assimilating the contents of the first 9 cantos. Then one should be admitted into the realm of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. Okay. Chief guest, how many times does Prabhupada mention that? Mention sex desire in the purport?
Guru Maharaj 20 times.
Oh, I counted 23 ones. Oh, because we were counting other ones too. Okay. So it's 20 times sex desire, 4 times he mentions sex indulgence and this kind of stuff. So
Well, I included everything, Guru Maharaj.
Oh, you included all those other four too.
Yes.
Okay. So we got 23 one time. Okay. So we can say about 20 times. Okay. So what is Prabhupada talking about in this purport? Sex indulgence. Yeah. But it's very nice because then it gives a very, very nice regulated suggestion. And of course, the questions were essay questions we're asking. Or one of them they suggested was this one. I augmented it. And did you have personal experience of this? Because I was coming off all this very lascivious, violent, whatever, Western hippie culture, especially at that time in the whole hippie culture, there was intoxication and everything else were being glorified in very, very strange ways, and with the augmented facilities of different kinds of methods of contraception and so on, communication, everything else. So everybody was so much entangled in this to a large degree, conditioned. And so when I was reading this purport and everything else, that's right. When I came to the third canto, people were giving me the books. I was buying them. So the third canto includes, the story of Devahuti and Kardamahuni, and how they had a bed which enhanced sexual gratification and all these things like that. And it's quite intense, Of course, they were following the four principles, And so even though they were enjoying themselves, trying to enjoy themselves, by this process, they never went beyond the experimental limits of the experimental instrumentation procedure. And because of that, they were able to see, it doesn't work, Yeah. And then they became detached, basically one lifetime finished. I finished it all off. It's a very, very scientific process. On the other hand, besides the point of gratification, it also describes in the story of Kapila what hell is like. For the first time, with very, very great details of being drugged to hell and being tortured by envious women and dogs with steel teeth. Yeah, that's just on the way to hell. Yeah. After you get there, it gets even worse. Yeah. So we've always commented that, as far as we can tell, the Hare Krishna hell is worse than the Muslim or Christian hell. Although some pictures of the Christian hell really get off there, Regal and others like that. So it's terrifying. Oh my God, if I don't follow these principles, what's going to happen to me? Oh, I'll become a Jehovah's Witness. I'll become a Mormon. They have a low, easier standard. Yeah. So the third canto is too intense, both positively and negatively, unless we're able to fix ourselves within these practical bounds like that. Then it becomes a very strong stimulus. If we're convinced that our teacher loves us and wants us to do the best, and he's teaching us in terms of necessities, and if he's then forceful with us and pushing us very hard, then we accept it. We accept it. Yes, okay, this is obviously very necessary, and he thinks I can take it. Okay, so the third canto is more intense. So, any questions or comments? Srinivasacharya first.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I was actually thinking about this verse today on the altar. I was, I was worshipping the deities on the altar and bathing, and there was a Bhagavatam lecture playing, and I was like, what canto are they on? Are they beyond second canto? Because some general crowd comes there, and I immediately remembered this particular verse. You spoke on this one. Yeah. Amazing. So, Guru Maharaj, can you explain in terms of how do we avoid even the subtle desires? I mean, you gave one example, but in general, the world it's not possible, because in the ancient times, there is this segregation between men and women. So the process was easy. Women had their things, men had their things. And now it's all combined. And then it becomes also a competitive environment. And it's easy to be misunderstood. You think you're greater, that's why you don't want to talk to women or whatever it is. So how do we, in these kind of circumstances, how do we go about practicing this, at subtle level?
Well, in the whole thing, the problem, the solutions can be seen from many different angles. It's like if I ask you, what is an elephant? Okay. The blind man asks, what is an elephant? It can be seen from many different angles and perspectives, the solution and the problem. And the Bhagavatam fortunately discusses it. So there's the solution. Tato jayam udirayat. Just announce this. And how many times is sex desire? How many stories in the Bhagavatam relate to sex desire?
Well, they're there even in 9th canto. So many times. Yeah.
I mean, how many stories in the Bhagavatam don't relate to sex desire?
Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj. Well, in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, it is because his father was attached. Probably Prahlad Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu.
Yes. Yeah. And Prahlad Maharaj, his father was attached to prestige and fame.
Yes.
Insanely attached. Sanely attached. Yeah. And then the sages of Naimisharanya, there's no indication that they were attached to fame, prestige. They just wanted to help other people, or maybe they wanted to be thanked for helping people. Yeah. And the other thing is, the question is how many times was it a subtle sex desire? What about Maharaj Bharata? Was he involved in sex desire?
He was trying to be the protector of the deer.
Yep, I'm the supreme friend. Bhoktaram Nigatapa Islam. You don't think about God. I am your supreme friend. Yeah. I will love you. Take care. Love me. Give me your respect. Give me your respect and distinction. So there's your answer. There's like so many kinds of people, everything else, and so on. And following our acharya, then Srila Prabhupada gives a certain standard for from comportment, dressing. These people, how people should dress, how they should do things, and because of that, we can get free. I mean, Prabhupada gives a very nice standard. He's just 10 years he was able to promote it like that. And then, of course, the main thing is, of course, everyday chanting enthusiastic rounds, because everything starts with sound. So we want to hear the sound of our name, in so many ways, of the sounds of different, the forms being conveyed by sound of different kinds of situations and stories. So if we're hearing the holy names and chanting, Nama, Rupa, then we'll desire to see the form for chanting properly. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Oh, okay. So then we sit in front of our deities, we have a picture. It's very natural, unavoidable for actually chanting with attention. And then Nama Rupa Charit, then we start to become conscious of the qualities of Krishna, of Radha Krishna. Yeah. It's not that they're like gross materialists we see around us. In fact, Prabhupada is preaching to us again and again that fundamentally, the desire is generosity, not selfishness. They both want, neither one of them want anything from the relationship. They just want to give something. Nama Rupa Charitadi. Yeah. And so then Charit, and then associates, So we start to realize the associates, and we start to realize that Prabhupada is an associate, and the devotees around us. We're so fortunate. Many times in the workplace, there's so much office, sexuality going on. What do you call it? There's so much sex desire within the office environment, especially when men and women are being mixed. There's no manifest sex desires, probably because people are so dull from intoxication and sexual gratification. Well, I'm not agitated. Yeah, why? Because you have sex 3.2 times a week. That's kind of the standard for. It was maybe 20 years ago, it's 40 years ago, the Kinsey report or whatever it was. Okay, 3.2 times a week for Americans was one of their standards. So if you're gratifying yourself to that extent, well then, you don't have any sex desire. So it's like I'm eating like a pig. I don't have any desire to eat after I eat like a pig. Okay, I'm not hungry. All you Hare Krishnas are so agitated. Yeah. Yes. So does that help a little bit?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. I have a follow-up question, if it's okay.
Okay.
So you mentioned about dressing also. So chastity for women is emphasized and the way they dress. I wondered what's the reason behind that. Because is it okay if men don't dress properly?
Of course not.
Wouldn't that agitate women? Should we be responsible for women?
Of course. You may notice that I wear my uttariya, but whenever I'm in a formal situation, I dress formally by putting my folded up T-shirt over my left shoulder. Stuff. Because it's very psychological what you're exposing, not exposing. So yeah, I was told that it probably came from Prabhupada, a Brahmin, at least an upper cloth, maybe nothing. It's hot weather or something like that. Is Indian environment, but he has to have at least like a folded shutter up, over left shoulder. Then he's considered dressed and stuff. But of course, if we're all men, not a public environment, all men, Yeah, then, it's what do you call it? It's like okay. But sometimes you get invited, I accept invitations to go in this restaurant, But then I go and I put on a shirt. Otherwise, I feel bizarre, even with a chatter over the left shoulder and stuff. So it depends on the environment. But yes, definitely, Prabhupada is saying, and of course, what is it? The Nala Kuvera Mani Griva. And Prabhupada says the covering the lower half of the body is an essential,
Mhm.
So it depends on the situation. But if you're with even Prabhupada himself, when he was talking about it was a very, very hot day, and they were traveling, they came to some nice place, stopped the car, it was a nice river lake spot. And Prabhupada said, "Oh, we can all take bath here." But the devotees said, "Well, Prabhupada, we haven't got any gumshoes." And Prabhupada said, "We're all brahmacharis." Like that. So I guess they were all just swimming in their coconuts. Yeah, like that. Yes. Yeah. So it depends on the environment. If you're Sukadeva Goswami, you can, and nobody's disturbed. You know, yeah, the ladies weren't disturbed. Yeah, they were enchanted by his smile and childlike behavior. So they were following. It was like a puppy. He was just so cute and attractive. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
So you can wear a veil. And people think you're a bandit. I mean, I'm afraid no way here. Yeah. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Arsh, Professor Pradhan.
Maharaj.
Good to hear your voice. Refreshing.
Is it audible, Maharaj?
Yeah, now it's good. Yeah, before the volume was a little low.
Maharaj, I have a question regarding this. I think this is 2 to 10 or 2 to 26. It's about regarding sixth desire. So one should not go beyond the second canto. How many lots of lessons for the householders from the Bhagavatam are there beyond second canto? So then, how does a householder approach these cantos?
Okay, it's a very good question. I mean, I'll say it again, maybe because little broke. Harsh brings up the point that one should not go beyond the first two cantos as long as one is still entangled in gross illicit sex. But many lessons are there for grihastas in later cantos and so on. So I've been thinking the same thing, many times, of course, we're invited to give a lecture on the current verse that we're studying in the temple. So it may be like maybe like 7, 5, 4, 23 or something. So it's many times it's like way beyond the first canto, fifth canto, sixth canto, seventh, eighth, ninth, even 10th canto. Houston Temple is going through that systematically, in their regular classes, one verse after another. So then, let me look and see. Let me look at the lecture book. Let's see if Prabhupada gave any lectures on this, and I can find more interesting things. Oh yeah, 7.5.47 or 7.5.13. Oh yeah, there was a lecture Prabhupada gave Bombay or someplace like that. So my experience was that Prabhupada, they chanted the verse and he read it, and then Prabhupada may have said some comments about the context or things like that, but then he would go right into a Bhagavad Gita lecture on the verse. Jivatma, Paramatma, material nature, modes of material nature, like that. So the public Bhagavatam classes, Prabhupada didn't go beyond, the content of the first two cantos, really. And so we can look at these higher cantos and select the verses and so on, which deal with more general perspective like that. But like we're talking about, the story of Kardama and Devahuti is very, very, stimulating. And then we go on to the stories of Mohini Morti and, Paranjana, and all these things, they're there. So selecting parts of them or giving the stories in general, the acharyas can do that to illustrate, because if they're talking about advanced purification, well, that automatically includes, gross purification, basic purification. So many different stories, they can be looked at from a perspective of these basic principles like that. But that one requires the acharyas and, sannyasis to put them in that format and use them. for the benefit of people who are actually not grihastas but grihamadis. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Maharaj, I get that. Okay, so if somebody is Grahamedi, so how should he approach Bhagavatam?
Well, what Prabhupada is saying here, especially first two cantos, and then hearing it in the association of devotees from a devotee, more. When I was first in the temple, there was requirement, what was it? Only Brahmins could give Bhagavatam class, but any initiated devotee could give the Gita class, And so you come into the temple in the evening and hearing things in the beginning is quite natural. When you're getting up and coming in the morning and listening to class, okay, that's pretty much requires much more determination, which is only going to come if you actually have some taste for what's going on or some desire like that, And so generally speaking, I say that, for example, in Spain, you were asked to give Bhakti by Baba, lectures in the morning because there were students there finishing it off. So on the weekend, the farm, not the farm, whatever, the rural project, it's an old castle or manor house. So they're doing this. They promote people to come, yogi people to come, and they have nice experience for them. Very nice. So the morning classes and the weekend, there were outside people coming who were just like maybe vegetarian and things like that, and it was, it was tough. I mean, here when you're on the seventh, eighth night, whatever it cancels, I guess it was Bhakti by Baba, and it was the verses were saying that woman is the gateway to hell. It's like the purports for all, here these, young couples coming in and stuff, and they're listening to this, and so then I had to put it in perspective and explaining, and this is for materialistic people and everything else and so on, and really explain it. But then they appreciated it. What to speak of tolerating, they appreciated. Okay, yeah, we're okay, good. We're not, because they were advanced enough where they could take the strong medicine if it was mixed with a lot of sugar, right? Or other products, So there's a very practical example of how I had to consider my audience and adjust it like that, So in the classes, Prabhupada said specifically, use your intelligence. If the classes are stimulating the wrong desires to advance, then don't go to them, or just don't listen during those parts. But generally speaking, I think advanced ISKCON devotees will understand the audience and won't start mentioning these things in the Bhagavatam, which are there for more advanced consciousness. Okay.
Yes, Maharaj. Book and devotee Bhagavatam both are.
Yes. Use your intelligence. You are a big professor. Boy, I can see Prabhupada talking to you soon. Ours brother, come here.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Well, any more questions or complaints or content? We have so much literature. Shubha Devidasi. Wow, so nice. They're leaving Houston, but they'll be back. Well, dear Nanda Raja Prabhu, traditionally when committing Harikari, a second warrior is used to also remove the head of the person departing. Well, thank you, Shubha Devidasi. This sounds more like Chaitanya Charitamrita.
I'm filling in for Subra. Subra's back at school, but he took over my laptop.
Oh, good. That's glad to know the headmistress of the school is not discussing these things about students who don't pass their examinations must commit harikari. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Hari, don't do it. Yeah. Seppuku. Yeah. 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 One time we were going to India and went to a travel agent in San Francisco, many, and he was, booking bulk travel, buying up sections, his company, whatever, tickets from Air Nippon, Japanese Airlines. At one point, they were, I think, the biggest carrier in the world, something. But of course, 99.99999% of their flights were all out of Japan and all over Asia like that. So they had one flight, of course, for their passengers to San Francisco, to the Western world. And of course, because they weren't booking so many, they were a little less. So I got on the airplane, Japanese airline with that. Had a one-night stopover in Japan, free hotel. So we're getting on there. I told this before, and the pilot says, "Hello, this is Captain speaking." He said, "If this is your first time flying, don't be frightened, because don't be concerned, because it is also Captain's first time flying." He said, "Ho ho ho, Captain just telling a small joke. Actually, Captain flying many times before." So very strange Japanese humor. We were landing, we were about 20 minutes late. They had headwind, everything else, it'd be 30 minutes. A little bit, it wasn't a lot, but it was a little bit for 20 minutes. And he said, "Oh, so sorry, landing 20 minutes late. Captain and entire crew must commit harikari." So Japanese people joking about Japanese culture. Yes. So anyway, the Manu Samhita and other things are like that because they're coming from the previous age, And Prabhupada's setting a standard, because one of the questions is talk about this in terms of ISKCON sannyas. For example, Prabhupada gave so much instruction about this in sannyas to his disciples, American disciples, and Indian disciples, how to adjust in terms of their particular cultures and their own particular indications. We mentioned so many times one devotee, he became a GBC secretary. The one devotee, he was brahmachari at that time in New York in the beginning. But later on became GBC, sannyasi, everything else. He wrote to Prabhupada and said, "Prabhupada, I can't stop thinking about illicit sex." And Prabhupada wrote back and said, "Yes, because of the birth you have taken, you will not be able to stop thinking about it." Yes. He said, "But if you engage in devotional service, you'll be able to tolerate it." Yeah. So the thoughts will go on. That's different than being attached to gross illicit sex. The thoughts will come. Okay. But the thing is, we don't entertain them, And so if you don't entertain them, they go away. Okay, something else will come along. If you don't die from COVID, then you'll die from the Russian invasion of Ukraine, something like that. So something else will always come along, material nature like that, And so that's a very important point. As we become purified, yes, we start to become detached from our mind. We let go of it. And this is where the subtle things come in. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, if you can do your service your entire life, and you're satisfied that nobody notices what you're doing, that's self-realization. And I thought about that. Yeah, I want people to respect me. Well, I did this, I did that. I want, some respect, everything else. And of course, in the Bible, we quote the same thing is there. But if you can do your service your entire life without having anybody praise you or even know you're doing it, then that's self-realization. Because that means you're getting a satisfaction from knowing, Krishna knows this. Krishna knows what I'm doing, and some indications from him, some prophet adoration and distinction by Krishna. So any final comments or questions? Okay, thank you all very much. Tacit consentit. He who says nothing gives his permission. So we'll see you all in the spiritual world. We can all give up our sex desire by giving up our bodies at this point. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Thank you very
yeah.
much.
Spirit.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Muchas gracias.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Jaya.